What if doing absolutely nothing for 5 minutes could completely reset your brain? Kind of like when you unplug your computer when it's not working, any electronics, maybe there's too many windows going on in the background, you just need that reset. Sounds ridiculous, or it might sound ridiculous, but I'm telling you, when your mind is overstimulated, when your dopamine is fried, and even when you feel like a total failure, the best thing you can do isn't to try to do more, like most of us do, it's to actually stop. Stop distracting, stop escaping, stop numbing yourself with endless scrolling, YouTube rabbit holes, working, going to the gym, just one more game. Because sometimes the most productive thing you can do is actually nothing at all. So we've all been there. You're burned out, you're procrastinating, you feel like garbage, maybe you're drinking your 10th coffee of the day, you escape into distractions, video games, food, Netflix, porn, your phone, whatever. And you think you're taking a break, but really you're digging a deeper hole. And here's the kicker. All that stimulation is making the things you actually want, like going to the gym, building a business, doing creative work, feel impossibly dull in comparison. The more you consume, the less you create. The more you stimulate, the less you feel. And the science that backs it up is because overstimulation spikes your dopamine. When your baseline gets too high, regular life feels flat. You know, even things you used to love start feeling like a chore. This is where it kind of gets a little bit scary because we get into that kind of like blah state. When you do nothing, you literally just sit there with no stimulation, your dopamine levels reset and motivation starts to return. So you might have heard things like dopamine detox. Yeah, dopamine detox or dopamine fasting or stuff like that. In this video, I'm going to break down why doing nothing is sometimes the most powerful productivity tool you have, period. The invisible trap of high dopamine comfort bubbles and how we get stuck there, and a simple protocol that helped me regain clarity, motivation, and passion for life in just 5 minutes, and how to shift your day from numb and stuck to motivated and alive without any hacks or hustle. And I love this quote by Anne Lamott. I don't even know how to say her name. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. Okay, so keep that in mind. So by the end of this video, you're gonna understand why your dopamine system might be sabotaging your life, and how a 5-minute reset can connect you with your goals, your energy, and the version of you that's been buried under this noise, confusion, chaos, and feeling you like totally stuck and not want to do anything. So let's dive in. So what is a dopamine trap? So high stimulating activities, video games, scrolling, these give you huge dopamine hits. Sometimes it's doing drugs or eating junk food. You know, a lot of times it's, you know, like our phones, or even sometimes doing things for others can be like a dopamine trap. You know, saying yes to everything else, but not saying yes to you. What happens is your brain starts to adapt and everything else kind of feels blah and boring, where you just don't want to do anything. So wanting to go to the gym or work on a project, but you have trouble starting, or even if you get that first day going, it's just like such a bore, such a chore. You're like, oh, I'm never doing this again. So one thing you need to understand is dopamine governs motivation. So too much, too often equals the reward system gets burnt out, and you're not going to want to go because that reward is missing. So we got to kind of find a way to tweak that. I saw this video online about a guy who just did nothing, and it kind of inspired me to try that. I started allowing myself to get bored because my mind wants to go, let me check what's on Twitter, let me check what's on Instagram, let me see blah, blah, blah. Let me do something. Let me stay productive. You know, because this need to stay productive was actually me wanting to check things off my list and get that dopamine hit. So I was inspired and I did nothing. No phone, no distractions, stare at the window. And actually, this is where meditation becomes really powerful. And for people that have trouble meditating, even breath work can be just as powerful, if not more powerful. Within a few minutes, my mental clarity returned. And then I actually felt like I wanted to do something again, where it wasn't coming from this, like, I got clarity on what I should do, and then I kind of had the motivation to do it. But it wasn't from trying to, it was from just stopping and allowing myself to just kind of sit there. And I did a lot of meditating in the past, and it doesn't mean just like once you figure this out once, it's never gonna come back again. When you find yourself in that kind of pattern of just like dopamine crashing or just seeking those like quick hits, it's really important to get a reset. Why does that work? How does that work? When you remove the stimulation, dopamine levels will return to that baseline. So once your nervous system settles, previously boring tasks become appealing again. So if you never sit in stillness, you'll never actually hear what your soul actually wants. That's a quote, author unknown. But I encourage you to find that stillness. And I'm actually going on a silent retreat where we're gonna have blindfolds on, we're gonna do a juice fast. We're just basically gonna take out any kind of stimulation possible and just sit there for 3 days. Kind of freaks me out a little bit, but I'm giving it a shot because why not? You know, get a full reset. And it's interesting how in my life, Like doing nothing often will bring surprising clarity, new ideas, insights, goals surface. So give it a try. So stimulation by default equals lost potential. Okay, so most people distract by default without realizing it. And what do I mean by that? So it's not about being lazy, it's about dopamine conditioning, right? So example, you start the day with YouTube, everything else feels harder afterward, right? So we start stimulating from the moment we start. So what's more important is like, don't say I can't do YouTube anymore. It's like killing that fun, I guess, or being the party pooper. Delay it. Let your dopamine rise during the day, not collapse. Give yourself a reward. Say, okay, if I get all this work done, then I'm gonna get 15 minutes of YouTube or Instagram. And there's even apps you can put on your phone. This is a tip that really helped me, which makes it hard to get on the apps. It reminds you, has a delay, wait 10 seconds. But we want to allow ourselves to work towards that motivation and that reward system. Starting with boredom is really important. It's the door to clarity. Instead of numbing out, sit with it, remove all stimulation. Here's a protocol. So basically when you're gonna go into your 5 minutes of boredom, or 15 minutes of boredom, 5 to 15 minutes, no phone, no laptop, no music, really not even a paper and a journal to write down your pens. So allow yourself to feel that need, like how many times do I feel myself reaching for that phone? Maybe even just put your phone on your desk in front of you and feel how many times automatically it's just like, oh, I want to check that. You know, it's almost like a reflex. Allow yourself to feel this uncomfortable. Like this is a key thing too with all development work. You know, it's like allowing yourself to sit in that river of misery, we call it in our breathwork trainings. You know, you want to cross that river to the other side, but to get there, you got to go through a little bit of discomfort and pain. And it's kind of like learning about ourselves and being aware of like what's holding us back. And studies show that there's this part of our brain called the default mode network, and boredom activates that. Sometimes it'll go into like negative self-talk when we're in this rumination phase, when we're not actively focused on something. That's also sometimes why people are overstimulating, because they want to focus on an external activity so that their brain doesn't go into this default mode network where they're kind of like ruminating and self-sabotaging and talking bad about themselves. But you can also use that time to think of creativity, goal setting, self-awareness. In a way, you're kind of like distracting yourself because you're trying to think about something, but allow yourself to be bored. This is not about like meditating and quieting our mind. It's about allowing ourselves to reset the dopamine receptors. Okay, coming back to what I talked about a few minutes ago, is just flipping the day. So stimulation after service. When you delay gratification, work becomes more engaging, fun feels earned and is more satisfying, and you feel proud of yourself instead of guilty. So this is why I do the hard thing first and the day gets easier. That's a quote from Naval Ravikant. Get the hard stuff out of the way and then give yourself a little reward. Especially if you're overstimulating at night, you're going to feel that flatness the next day. Probably not going to sleep. So when we're winding down for bed, we want to like maybe go for a walk, do some light breath work, journal, plan your next day, read or stretch, down regulation breath work. So slowing down your exhale, and you're going to feel like you're going to have better sleep. You're going to feel more excited the next day. You're going to have more energy, and you're going to be more likely to complete some of your goals. Again, just to recap here, early in the morning, here's some tips. Breath work before bed or after waking calms the nervous system, resets dopamine. Cold exposure, like a cold shower, exercise early in the morning, boost natural motivation without overstimulation. That's a good one. And if you could do one full digital detox per week, no social media, it's going to help to reset the dopamine system in your body. Time in nature will also help lower dopamine thresholds and reconnect you with purpose. Just a walk in the park, that's all it takes. Like Ram Dass said, the quieter you become, the more you can hear. You can find that intuition. You can find that flow and creativity. And just a final reminder, like, you're not broken, there's nothing wrong with you, you're just overstimulated. And you can reset that pathway within yourself. Your goals still matter, your drive is still inside you, your job, or maybe you're just buried under too much noise and it feels like this pressure where you kind of feel like doing nothing. So you have the choice to strip it away, sit with yourself, let the clarity return, unplug yourself for one day, 10 minutes, whatever it is, and you're gonna feel so much better and clearer, okay? So in the age of constant movement, nothing is more urgent than sitting still. Pico Ear said that. So unplug yourself. You can do it. Give it a shot. It works wonders for me, and I think it will work wonders for you too. Peace.